Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You better behave yourself tonight, Ray, because you're using my name. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so. Who's in here? Just the three of us so far? Oh, okay. Getting a few more.
Who's the phone number? 860-546. That's Chris. 9669.
Yeah, that's me. Yep, that's me.
Okay, then they've got another one of you down here.
Yeah, probably because I'm logged in. That's me. That's me on the computer and me on the phone. Yeah, this the office. I don't have camera or microphone on here, so.
Yeah, no sweat. I'm trying to figure out. There was a way for me to actually see what was up on the screen, so I knew I was actually broadcasting whatever.
Yeah, I see you. You're working on my end, so.
Yeah, I just don't see the video on this end. I see the.
That's good. Now you got your own name there. That's good. Yeah.
I can't see what could possibly go wrong with that.
Yeah, Jesus. We got like matching gray hair, but mine's like 8 inches long now. I got this whole COVID thing. I refuse to go to the barber.
So you're playing hippie, huh?
I'm playing hippie. I'm going to see. They're threatening to give me a man bun down here. So.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah, we got a guy at work that he's probably my age. He's refused to cut his hair. So you sound like one of my screaming seamen back in the Navy.
This is Dottie Horn comes down, and last week for something we decided, she says, "You need to get a haircut." I said, "What am I, out of regs?" She says, "Yes, you are."
What was it? Get a haircut, get a real job.
Yeah. I'll get the haircut first.
Well, we got time yet. I'm actually early for once. I had trouble finding your password. I mean, the password.
Yeah, the password.
This is actually not bad. What I put out in the email, you probably read. We're just going to continue to do the meetings this way until the whole thing is lifted.
Yeah, the only thing we got to meet in person, and I'm scheduling it, is the tri-board meeting with Board of Ed, Board of Finance, and Board of Selectmen, because I don't think the three boards trying to connect on Zoom would be a three-ring circus.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's important that we pick those back up again. I'm thinking either first week of October or last week of September, just to start those off again, so we can have that line of communication. And I know we got plenty of room down here in the community room to spread everybody out and throw masks on and whatnot. And I think we should be okay.
Yep.
Did Chris forward the meeting stuff to the superintendent?
I don't know.
Can you ask him?
Is that the superintendent that's on under Canterbury Board of Ed?
Hi, folks. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Did you get the meeting materials?
I saw the attachments. Yes.
Okay, it's no big deal. I mean, the only one that really you're interested in, obviously, is yours.
Yes.
So that you're probably pretty familiar with.
Yeah. That was the one I sent you, and that was the one I sent you last night, correct?
Right, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And remind Steve of the dress code. This is Canterbury, so tie is strictly optional.
Yeah, I'm in a white formal shirt here.
Is it optional or forbidden?
Optional. Yeah, we can't forbid anything, but more casual than most.
Sounds good.
Can I be heard?
You may be heard.
Okay, as long as you got me, because it was a challenge.
I think the bottom says mute half the time.
That's all right. That mutes it. All right, take a break for it.
I think she's gonna take Dan in the back room.
Chris, were you talking to Ray about setting a date for the tri-board meeting?
Yeah, I'm thinking either last week of September or first week of October to kick that off. And as I said to Ray, I said, we're going to have to really do that in person, because to try to get all three boards coordinated on Zoom would be probably more unmanageable at best. But I'm thinking last week September, first week October, we'll pick a day when there's no conflicting meetings, and we get everybody down here in the community room. We got plenty of space to spread out.
Sounds great.
What is that other meeting we have later? Was it later this week or next week, Chris?
Which,
It was, I think it was about financing.
not on my calendar. I got nothing on my calendar. I have a selectman next Tuesday, and I think I have nothing else after this.
Yeah, it might have been the 20 something. It was I'll forward it to you. I got it
Okay.
at work. I don't know. I don't remember who exactly sent it, but I think it was,
Oh, is that the CCM class?
yeah, it was on,
Yeah, okay, the CCM class. Did you register for that, or the Boston Fed one?
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I registered for that. I forget what day that is. That's
It's like the 28th or something, 27th, maybe, I don't know.
20-something. Yeah, I don't know. I got so many cryptic notes on my calendar. I don't know what half of them mean, but yeah, that's coming up.
All right, I'm gonna go grab an iced tea here real quick, and I'll be right back before 7.
Sounds good.
All right. How you doing, Mike?
Good, Ray. How are you?
No complaints. Well, there's always complaints, but
Yes, there is.
nobody listens, so.
Not even half as stupid.
Hi, Mike. How are you? My name's Steve, the new superintendent in Canterbury. Nice to meet you.
Hey,
Steve,
Steve,
how are
good
you?
to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Good.
She's gonna eat your food.
Hi, Steve. I'm Jeanette. Field A. Nice to meet you. Welcome to town.
Hello. Thank you.
1, 2, 3.
How's the first week of school going, Steve?
So far, not too bad. You know, I think the first week of school is always chaotic. With half the students coming in, it's helped made some of the transitions with all the new routines and mask wearing and social distancing a little more manageable. So we're looking forward to trying to get all the kids in by the first week of October. So, but
Yeah.
so far so good.
Good. Yeah, I have 3 distant learners myself. We live in Tolland. So they're starting off the year distance learning, and then, like you said, hopefully things go well and they can get back into school full time in October.
Yeah.
Steve, when you say back in school, you're hoping for October for all kids back in, are you talking like a regular 5-day a weeker?
Exactly. Yeah. Parents will still have the option of electing to be fully remote. That's part of the state's guidance, but we're hopeful that as parents see some success in the schools that they'll have their kids come in. So we created a structure where I think it's a manageable that every kid is still assigned to a classroom, even though they're fully remote. These are uncharted territories that we're trying to navigate, that's for sure.
Can I just ask you from a parental point of view,
Sure.
that you're not quick to move in beginning right in October? There's a lag time from exposure to showing symptoms and everything and blossoming with corona. So give that lag time a chance to settle in before
Yeah.
you jump.
Absolutely. That's why we picked October 5th. It was like 5 weeks from
Oh, good.
from the last week of August through the 4 weeks. But you're absolutely right. You definitely won't see too much more. So I monitor and track the transmission rates through the COVID testing regularly, and looking at not just Wyndham County, but New London County too.
Are you testing your teachers?
No, we're
Are you
not.
testing anybody in the school?
Nope. Not too many districts doing that. I think that I am only aware of 2 actually, and they're on the western side of the state.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We do have a quorum. So I'll call this meeting, Canterbury Board of Finance to order. It's a regular meeting. We have Pledge of Allegiance. We don't have a central flag here to do that too, so we'll do it internally. Oh, we got the flag right behind Mike.
Yeah, right there.
All right, approval of minutes. There's a lot of them.
Can I ask who's sitting on the board tonight? Mr. Stewart?
Yes, well, we'll do roll call. There's myself. Next, Jeanette,
Yes.
Mike Lee,
Yep.
Matthew Bruno,
Present.
and I think that's the four.
Thank you.
All right, so let me bring up the first set of minutes. Let's do this first. I'd like to add one item to the agenda, which is for us to hear the audit report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Either way.
Okay, Jeanette seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And we're gonna add that as, we don't even have new business on here, so we'll call it old business. Since it's last year's
You want to
audit.
do it under reports? See?
Yeah, let's do it as A under reports. And move treasurer's report and Board of Finance down one. All right, first set of minutes is 5/20, May 20.
Can we approve these in block, or do you want each one approved?
Oh, I would much rather go as a block.
I would make a motion then.
All right, we have a motion to accept
The
meeting
minutes of May 20th, May 27th, June 3rd, June 10th, June 17th, and June 24th, 2020 as presented.
I'll second that. Okay, any discussion?
I would like to make one comment, is that I'm giving a big thank you to Karen for keeping all those numbers that we were running left and right and out our nose and out of our ears and everywhere else we could think of. To keep those flow of numbers straight was really great, because back in my notes, they were right on target. Thank
You're
you, Karen.
welcome.
She's back there.
The minutes seem pretty good to me, so that's, yeah, kudos.
All right, and actually, I don't, that's probably a good way sort of to do it, in that things were changing fairly rapidly, and with meetings every week, it's, kind of difficult to keep all that together. So going back and doing it this way is not perfect, but we did it. All right, so now we're gonna move on to public comment, of which I don't
We need
believe.
a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. No further discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
None opposed. Motion for approval carries. I don't believe we have any members of the public with us.
Ray, I wanted to say a couple things. Is it appropriate to say them under public comment?
Sure.
Okay, I'm offering I'm not brown nosing here. I'm just offering a big thank you to Ray for the coordination of the Zoom meetings. I mean, from when we started doing our budget through now to get all the parties together. I appreciate that. And I also want to say thank you, because you were keeping on top of the school opening financial impact issues for us as a board. So I want to say thank you to that. I do have a question for the Board of Selectmen. I'll wait for their report, and I guess the others are for the Board of Selectmen. I'll wait for their report.
Okay. And I'll just add in here, I had attended a couple of the organizational meetings that were conducted by Board of Ed and parents and staff members of both schools. And yeah, quite frankly, I couldn't have come up with a better way of doing business than they did. I think they had input from everybody. But, they had they thought of a lot of the contingencies. I like to say all, but we know that's not ever going to be possible. But I'm really appreciative of it, especially since it's difficult to kind of get everybody together to do any sort of meeting. So I'd like to thank the superintendent for that, and the Board of Ed. We'd also gotten, what was it? All right, I had, the first selectman was nice enough to,
No,
let me try to think of the word here.
no.
He nominated me for a position on CCM's Financial Advisory Board. So we'll have representation at CCM in that capacity. It probably is more of a show thing than it is anything else for CCM, but try and make sure Canterbury's voice is heard. So as those meetings progress and I find out really what the format is and what they expect us to bring to the table, I'll make sure that I query you all and make sure that what your voices get heard as well.
Thank you.
All right, now I'll shut up and move on. Next item we have is the audit report. Mike, would you like to take it up from there?
Sure, no problem, Ray.
Thank you, if I can find it.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could share the presentation.
Meeting documents, September meeting. In PDF, is it a PDF?
What is the auditor's name?
Michael Van de Venter. I know I sent it out to everybody. What happened to it?
Ray, excuse me. I got the PDFs. It wasn't really a presentation.
So I just sent a presentation probably a little bit before the meeting, so I wasn't sure if you received
Oh, okay. I'll go grab it off of Gmail real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was in with Chris's packet. Gmail.
Can he spell his last name?
VANDEV.
V-A-N what?
VANDEVENTER.
Came in at 5:55.
Okay.
If you want to go through by time.
No, this account doesn't get all that much, so there we go. Jason's not gonna be able to make it. And then I have two, there we go. Hey, look, I actually have an attachment that came in. Chris. All right, what is this opened in? Something I can't do anything with, so let me fix that.
And this is why I don't run the meeting.
It doesn't look like I am either. It was the only window that we were using.
A lot better than me.
Back to Google here, Gmail. I think it'd take that long to open since I just opened it. All right, let me see if I can do a, that's not it. Accepted, there we go. And there is the, I want to save this. I guess we can do it this way. Not really. And there's Lori. Let me let her in. All right, Mike, we got it there in some kind of weird format, but it's up.
And you can scroll up and down, right? I don't know if you scroll down, if it will just.
We lose the screen. Yep, there we go.
Perfect. All right. All right, well, thank you very much. Again, my name is Mike Van Deventer, and I'm a partner at Mahoney Sable, ultimately responsible for overseeing the audit and issuing the reports from the firm. I do realize that we are a number of months away from the June 30th, 2009 fiscal year. And we'll talk a little bit about the timing and specifically as far as when the audit was issued. But what I'd like to do is go through the presentation. Has everyone actually received a copy of the financial statements in the state single audit at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And have you had a chance to go through the reports at all?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I will make reference to some of the information included in those reports. Ray, we can go into as much detail as you would like, or again, if you want to take time to review them, and if you have questions, you can certainly circle back with me. But what I'd like to do is run through the presentation, and again, I can answer any questions as we go along. As far as the overall agenda, I'll cover the scope of work, the audit reports that were issued. I'll provide some overall financial highlights. I'll make our required auditor communications, and then again, happy to answer any questions. Ray, if you could scroll down to slide 3. That looks better. In terms of the overall scope of work, again, we did perform an audit of the town's financial statements. We performed that audit in accordance with both the auditing standards issued by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, as well as the government auditing standards issued by the Government Accountability Office. In addition, based on the level of funding that was received, we did also perform a state single audit. That audit was performed in accordance with the OPM compliance supplement to the State Single Audit Act. In addition, I do want to point out that the town did not meet the requirement to have a federal single audit. That threshold is $750,000, and I think the town had expended somewhere about $450,000 in federal funds. So really no change in terms of the overall scope of work from prior years. Scrolling down to the next slide, in terms of the reports that were issued, again, the main report that we issue is the report on the financial statements. We did issue an unmodified clean opinion on your financial statements. Again, our opinion does provide reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance. We're not testing every transaction. That the financial statements have been prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and that they're free from a material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud. Our opinion does cover multiple statements within your financial statements, covers your governmental activities, each of your major funds, and for the town, that's your general fund, your capital non-recurring fund, as well as your library fund. And then we also issue an opinion on what's considered to be the aggregate remaining fund information, and that includes all of your other special revenue funds, some permanent funds, as well as some agency funds. So again, a lot of information that's included in the financial statements, in addition to the normal general fund budgetary financial statements that you probably see on a monthly basis. In addition to the report on the financial statements, we are required to issue a report on compliance and on internal control over financial reporting. This report is required by the government auditing standards. We do not actually express an opinion on your compliance with laws and regulations. That's because we're not attorneys. And then we don't also express an opinion on the effectiveness of your internal control. Essentially, during the course of performing the audit, if we identify what we consider to be a compliance or an instance of non-compliance with laws and regulations, or a deficiency in your internal control structure, we are required to include it in this report. So we did end up reporting an instance of non-compliance with laws and regulations, and that was relating to the over expenditure of the school district appropriation that was authorized by the town. Now, the town was aware of the overspend, and ultimately it was actually identified by the town. However, it still does represent an instance of non-compliance that is required to be reported. I would refer you to the finding 2019-001, which is reported in the schedule of findings on page 8 and 9 of the state single audit report. So again, there is some additional detail regarding that finding. In addition to the instance of non-compliance, whenever you do have an instance of non-compliance, you most likely also have a deficiency in your internal control structure that ultimately allowed the instance of non-compliance. So again, we did report a material weakness in the school district's budgetary controls as a result of the budgetary non-compliance. And again, that is also outlined in the finding 2019-001, reported in the schedule of findings on page 8 and 9 of the state single audit report. In addition to the findings related to the schools, we did also report a material weakness in the town's year-end closing procedures. And that was really driven by a result of a number of audit adjustments that were identified during the course of performing the audit. And again, I would refer you to finding 2019-002, which is reported in the schedule of findings on page 910 of the state single audit report. These adjustments really related to year-end balance sheet closing entries. So again, we had no issues with the accounting for payroll transactions or expenditure transactions. These related more towards interfund activities, balancing interfund activity accounts, truing up receivable accounts for property taxes, and some of those sorts of closing entries. Regardless, there's still an important piece of a year-end closing process, even though it doesn't have a significant impact on your budgetary results. It does have an impact on the overall financial reporting for the town. So again, we did provide some recommendations relating to these findings. Management of the town and the school district were also required to submit a corrective action form to the Office of Policy and Management, as well as the Department of Education in response to those findings. So if they have not shared those responses with you, that is something that, that they should do. Right.
They have with me. I haven't sent them to the board, quite frankly, because those were the things that we discussed during the ongoing problem. So they've actually the school board's actually presented those to us several times, and we'll begin to do that again when we have the tri-board meetings kicking back off again. And, you know, with regard to that, it'll be a good opportunity, probably the second tri-board, for us to go back and kind of analyze what we did, and see what effect it had, see if it had a positive effect.
Okay. Any other questions? I see some people are on mute.
Yeah, I was muted. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And Ray, what I'd like, could you actually have those forwarded to us? Because I'd like to see what they are proposing, each of the entities proposing as corrective measures. Because we often get, well, we're going to do something and we're looking into it. I'd like to see what they've had to provide to the state.
Well, I would just ask Ray if you could make that request of Chris, and then probably Steve as well from as the superintendent of the Board of Education.
Sure.
And again, those corrective action forms have been filed with the state at this point.
Yeah, and the Board of Ed voted for them, so I can get them from their minutes, no problem.
Okay.
And I'll talk to Lori about picking up the town ones.
Thank you.
So with that, I wasn't going to spend any more additional time. I think the important thing was to inform the board and refer you to the findings in the report to, again, make sure that, that you have seen them and ultimately are following up on the corrective action plans that have been submitted to the state. All right.
Michael, may I ask, were you part of crafting a corrective plan?
No, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so those responses do come from management. I believe on the town side, you know, Lori did run some of the recommendations that she was going to make in terms of the year-end closing process by me. But again, it wasn't as if I crafted the responses.
No, but you are at least knowledgeable of what they presented, and do you feel that is adequate for what would address the issues you found?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, with that said, I don't want to belabor the point, but despite all those things that happened during that period of time, I mean, these results were expected, and the corrective actions that the Board of Ed took and the Board of Finance took, I think, were very well done. We're on good ground, I think, and we're kind of laughing at some of the emails going back and forth. We're all cordial, and so we're looking forward to better days ahead.
Yeah, and to that point, Steve, our board our superintendent, sir, could you really focus in so that it doesn't repeat itself again this year about the expenditures and the deficiencies that were found? Make it one of your priorities to keep it on track.
Yep, it typically is. So that's definitely just a part of practice, but we will make sure we have those monthly communications with the Board of Finance.
Thank you.
All right, so
Thank you, Michael.
yep, with that, I will move on to the audit reports that were issued in connection with the state single audit. And Ray, I think you skipped one slide, so if you could go back up. So in connection with our state single audit work, we do issue a report on compliance and on internal control at the state financial assistance level. So here we are actually required to express an opinion on your compliance with your major programs. For fiscal year 2019, the town expended about $5.4 million in state financial assistance. The majority of that is considered exempt from our testing. 584,000 was considered non-exempt. Again, the major program was the Town Aid Road Grant, which was about 309,000. We did issue an unmodified clean opinion on compliance for that program. And again, no deficiencies or material weaknesses over compliance reported. And the main compliance requirement, obviously, for Town Aid Road is allowable costs. If we can move to the next slide, I just wanted to provide some overall financial highlights. The first slide goes over your general fund budgetary highlights. And so hopefully at this point, there were no surprises in the results of your budgetary results. Your original budget did provide for the use of unassigned fund balance in the amount of $237,824 to balance your revenues and expenditures. Your final budget did include additional appropriations in the amount of $114,179, and that resulted in a planned use of unassigned fund balance in the amount of $352,000. So again, your actual net change in fund balance on a budgetary basis was an increase of about $6,000. And so that resulted in an overall favorable budgetary variance of about $346,000. So even with the additional appropriations that were required for the school district, you did end up using less of your unassigned fund balance than what was planned. Overall, your revenues were about $80,000 less than budgeted, and that was a really result of unfavorable tax collections as well as state funding relating to Town Aid Road and LoCIP, and that was offset by favorable interest income on your short-term investments. Your overall expenditures were about $438,000 less than budgeted, and that was really a result of multiple favorable variances within your general government, and then also the deferral of some Town Aid Road and LoCIP projects within your Public Works Department. So again, those Town Aid Road and LoCIP have an impact on both revenues and expenditures.
And that's one other point I really wanted to make too, is despite how bad it got, the town government was able to come up with the savings necessary to save the day, as well as the tax collector, town clerk. So, you know, for passing out attaboys, those are definitely due, the ones that are due.
Thank you.
Yep, and I was going to point out that, you know, again, the school district, the general fund expenditures exceeded the original budget by about $382,000. Ultimately, that over expenditure was funded really through a minor amount of unassigned fund balance, transfers of unexpended balances from other departments, and then also an anticipated surplus on your overall tax collections. The next slide goes over your financial highlights for your governmental funds. And again, this includes your general fund as well as your capital non-recurring and your special revenue funds and permanent funds. Your combined ending fund balances as of June 30, 2019 totaled about $6.5 million. That was an increase of about $390,000 from the prior year. Of the total fund balance, approximately $2.4 million is included in your general fund. Of that, about $1.7 million was considered unassigned. Included in your general fund were about $453,000, which was assigned for use in your fiscal year 2020 budget, as well as about $209,000 that has been assigned for the establishment of an other post-employment benefit reserve. Your capital non-recurring fund had a fund balance of about $2 million, and again, that was committed for capital purposes. Your library fund has a fund balance of just over $1 million. The majority of that is a restricted endowment. And then all of your other funds had a fund balance of about $908,000. And again, it's either restricted, committed, or assigned for various purposes. and all those are detailed out in the financial statements. An important thing that I like to point out is, again, you have no deficit fund balances in your governmental funds. When we're doing the audit, sometimes we see unfunded deficits in other funds that maybe the Board of Finance wasn't aware of. So again, you have no unfunded deficits that need to be funded. Overall, your unassigned fund balance totaled approximately 1.7 million, and that represents 11.9% of your fiscal year 2019-20 general fund budgetary expenditure appropriations. Again, that's sufficient to cover approximately 1.4 months of general fund operating expenditures. And again, that also contemplates the use of fund balance to offset your taxes for your fiscal year 2020.
Mike, can I ask you a question? Right in the middle of the page, library fund, 1,089,000, but 1,025,000 is restricted. So that means there's $64,000 that they ended the year with that was not tagged to anything?
Correct. So it's actually, I'll have to go back and look specifically
I believe
at
that's PRE funding, and then their special library account that has their copy fees, dues.
Oh, that's what we were trying to figure out this year. Okay.
I believe that's what it is.
Yeah, and I can go back and take a look at that. I just don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, the
Yeah, 'cause
PRE thing would
PRE
make
is
sense.
20K a year, so 10 or 20K a year. So
But we also, there's also a capital and non-recurring fund. That's where the PRE money would be. That wouldn't be in the library fund. Right? So I'm
yep, you're right.
something for the Board of Finance to question.
And I can certainly follow up in our work papers as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens as we get to the town budget areas. That was part of our requests from this budget cycle, is that we get reports on those off, we call them off the books accounts, whatever. But where that the $1 million grant or whatever was put, so that we have some idea of what's going on with those as well.
Sure. Yep. I think that's a good recommendation. Yep.
Don't say off the books account. Michael's ears will fall off.
I do audits of many municipalities, and when we say off the books, they may not be on a general ledger, but somebody's usually looking, watching over them. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Any questions as far as the overall financial highlights? I did exclude, typically I will provide like an overall financial highlight of your government-wide financial statements. I did exclude that from this presentation. I really think the only significant impact was you did have the issuance of the note for the school construction roof project, as well as a capital lease. So those are really the only two major impacts to your government-wide financial statements that are now reflected as long-term liabilities that were not there in the prior year. All right, so the next section goes over our required communications. And the first item here talks about our responsibility under our auditing standards. Again, although we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements, they are the responsibility of town management. Again, we are responsible for performing our audit procedures and express an opinion on those financial statements. Although we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements, all the information did come from the town. In terms of the overall planned scope and timing of the audit, again, no changes in the overall scope of work that was originally agreed upon. Our timing was delayed. I think if you remember, in terms of the June 30th, 2018 audit, the timing was delayed, and that was largely due to the other post-employment benefit valuation that wasn't obtained by the town, and it took a number of months to get that valuation performed. This year was really, an issue of some scheduling issues at the firm. So again, I think many of you are familiar that Jennifer Hawkins, again, was a partner at the firm. When she had left, the firm's goal was to potentially replace Jennifer with a new partner. Our search for that person to find somebody, and so I ended up taking on a lot, actually all of Jennifer's work. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get the audit scheduled really prior to the December 31st, 2019 filing deadline. Once we began the audit, again, we did have some delays relating to the deficiencies in the closing procedures. And again, that resulted in some additional work and use of more experienced professionals. We did have multiple extensions that were requested and approved by OPM. And ultimately, the audit was issued in June of 2020. Now, I would point out that as part of my plan in terms of our overall practice, I have let a number of towns go. So at this point, I am not expecting to have any towns on extension because of staffing issues. We do have a few towns that typically go on extension just because they need some additional time to close out their books. But I fully intend to be able to do Canterbury's audit this year on time and get that issued prior to the December 31st deadline. Any questions as far as the overall plan and scope and the timing of the audit?
Not exactly, but yes. Our agreement with you, does that expire at the end of this audit?
Yes, I think this was the last year.
So have we submitted the audit appointment letter, or am I delinquent on that one too?
If you have not submitted it, then you're probably delinquent. However, OPM will usually let you know that you're delinquent.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I'd be surprised if you haven't heard from them yet, but we can certainly follow up with them.
Okay, no problem. If I am, I'll get it out that day as soon as I find out.
And again, I do appreciate everyone's patience in terms of the board, management, working with us in terms of some of our scheduling issues. I think you'll find that in general, there are less firms that are doing municipal work. And I think, I've seen I've actually had a number of towns call me because they went out through an RFP this year and they have nobody bid on them. And so they either ended up taking a firm out of Rhode Island or out of state. And so again, there certainly is a concern for overall capacity in the municipal audit world. As far as significant audit findings, again, we do review your accounting policies and practices. The town's significant accounting policies are disclosed in Note 1 to the financial statements. The town was required to implement a new GASB Statement 88, certain disclosures related to debt, including direct borrowings and direct placements. Again, that didn't have an impact on how you account for your debt. It just changed some of the disclosures. And certainly since you had some new debt, those disclosures were applicable to you. As far as significant estimates and judgments, again, these really relate to accounting matters in your government-wide financial statements and do not have an impact on your budgets. Those estimates include estimated useful lives assigned to capital assets, as well as discount rates utilized to determine net pension and OPEB liabilities. Again, we did deem those to be reasonable and consistent with what other municipalities are using. In terms of significant difficulties encountered in performing the audit, it really consisted of some additional time that was required as a result of the deficiencies and the number of audit adjustments that were identified and proposed. There were no uncorrected misstatements. So again, if we did identify an audit adjustment, we did propose and it was recorded and reflected in the financial statements. We had no disagreements with management. We did obtain a management representation letter. Again, there was nothing unusual included in that letter that I'm required to inform you of. And again, we're not aware of any consultations with any other independent accountants during the course of performing the audit. So ultimately, that concludes our required communications. Again, I know this is kind of stale information, but could still be important. So if you do review those reports and have additional questions, I'd be happy to answer those at any point in time. Other than that, I will open up to any additional questions that you might have.
In your personal opinion, are we on track? Once we correct our practices, as you noted?
Yeah, so some of the deficiencies on the town side in terms of the year-end closing procedures, I do see a lot of these deficiencies, especially at smaller towns. And again, you know, from a board perspective, it's important to make sure that your payroll is being processed correctly and ultimately your disbursements, you know, are authorized and recorded correctly. Some of the year-end closing procedures, in the past, auditors have often assisted towns in performing those procedures. The auditing standards has really tried to push or steer auditors from performing those services. They believe it really should be the responsibility of management to close out the books. So again, these aren't things that I don't typically see, or I do typically see at smaller towns. And I do think that ultimately, you know, Lori can do a lot of those closing entries herself. It's just, you know, again, she's probably used to the auditors doing that as part of the audit process.
Thank you.
That, and if I might add that we've had, for the most part, the same comment in previous years. It had been answered to some degree by a couple of previous treasurers, but in reality wasn't sufficient to carry on to the next treasurer or the one after that. So in speaking with Lori, she understands that, and we're gonna make sure that we better document that for.
Actually, I have a lot of faith in Lori.
She's awesome.
Thank you, Michael.
Great. Any other questions? No.
No, be careful on your drive home.
I must tell you that's probably the most difficult part of this, you know, work from home environment is I do miss the interaction. For sure.
The interaction, and you probably never turn off, because if you're anything like my wife, work becomes 24/7 because it's always just one room away. But I just like to say, Mike, thanks. It's always a pleasure working with you, working with the firm, and you know, understanding our circumstances here. You've been you answer my questions even when they're idiotic, and I appreciate that. So it's, like I say, it's been great working with you. I appreciate the hard work that's done on that, and we will hold you to that December deadline this year, because we'll get off of OPM's naughty list on those audit extensions.
Yeah,
other than that, thank you.
Chris, I agree. I don't think I can handle many more years like the past 2 years that I've had, because it's been really nonstop all year round. So I've made some changes in terms of our overall client portfolio, and I think we're in a good position now.
Yeah, fantastic. And just as a heads up to the Board of Finance members, I think the audit is essentially already kicked off for the last fiscal year. Lori and Patty have been doing some of the preliminary work, and they're going to be kind of knuckling down within the next week or two with Mike and his team. And so, yeah, it's all moving forward.
Thank you. Ray, you're muted.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike. And I hope we're on that list of municipalities that will remain with Mahoney Sable as the years progress. We've had a good relationship over the years.
Yep, and we appreciate that as well. Thank you.
All right. With that said, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is.
Bye, Mike.
I'm sorry.
I said goodbye, Mike.
Oh. So we have treasurers and selectmen's report. Lori, is there any particular document you want to look at first?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, there's no specific document. Is there anything where you'd like to start?
No, not at all. Well, the document I have up right now is sideways, and
Okay.
Profit and loss.
Yeah. If
These
you
are-
look,
Okay, good.
I'd say we're down a little bit on our property tax collection. Because I would imagine we'd be close to 50% after the end of July, and we're at about 43.5 right now. So it's not too bad, but we're down a little bit.
Lori, say that again. Where'd you expect us?
About 50.
Yeah, got it.
That Chris, I think we discussed that was approximately, what, about 500,000 down?
Oh, about 500, maybe 600,000 down, which is not worst case scenario. I think it's manageable, but I'm hoping that with the deferment expiring in October, that we'll get in that the rest of what we're looking, so we can don't have to be concerned about any cash flow issues.
So,
What's up with dump stickers? They're over.
Well, I think everybody just has the spring fever and were locked up in their houses for so long that they did a lot of cleaning.
But I thought we put some thought into that. I'm just wondering why we're off.
where are you seeing that?
Seems good.
Mike?
Just 4230 dump sticker. We've brought in $8,000, budgeted 6.5 at 123%. It's just a positive sign, I guess.
So we're up about $1,500. How much is a dump sticker? Chris, do you know?
20 bucks.
So is it believable that we sold 75 more?
Yeah.
No. I think we've actually only sold under 1,000 dump stickers so far.
Well, I guess it surprises
not-
me too, because they weren't even requiring it until what, the 1st of September at the dump?
Yeah, but we've been selling them
Got
now
it.
for at least a month, if not 6 weeks. So if you actually don't have one by the 15th of September, you're not going to be able to go. There's a 2-week grace period. But yeah, so we've been selling them probably 6 weeks now.
So, Chris, in the past, we had approved you to borrow some money in anticipation of receipt of taxes. Did you have to exercise that?
No, and in fact, that was the topic of conversation at the selectmen's meeting, because I was looking to get a line of credit, which you legally can do. However, I have yet to find a bank that's offering a line of credit to a municipality. The last conversation I had was with Webster Bank, with their government banking representative, and if push comes to shove, we can always do a tax anticipation note. I don't think we're going to be there. If the revenue collection pattern holds steady as it has been, we should be good. But it's still an option to have in our back pocket if we have to. But hopefully we don't have to exercise it.
Are we close? I mean,
No, we're only down about, I want to say $600,000, somewhere around there. So we're good now. October 1st, when the deferment expires, we're going to see more people come in, and so I think we'll be fine. But we're on top of it. Natalie, Lori, and I, we check those numbers on a regular basis. And I mean, if we had to, we could go to tax anticipation note route. But as it stands now, right now, we don't have to. We're good.
do you
Yeah,
need
that
to,
and expenditures are down normally in the first quarter of the fiscal year because the schools haven't opened yet. So that kind of helps us a little bit.
would you have to come back to the Board of Finance for a tax anticipation approval?
I don't think
That's
so.
the
I
way
think
we
I was
phrased it
given, I
before?
think the authority was to secure borrowing, which the tax
Okay.
anticipation note would be. And if we had to, we could hold a special meeting and take care of it, yeah, if it got to that point. And in fact, if I was going to go through the process of lining up a TAN, the Board of Finance would be kept well aware every step of the way what we're doing and how we're doing it, just for transparency's sake.
Do you have any thought as to how many months we still have of working capital?
Now we're only down in collection about 500,000. I'm trying to do the numbers in my head, but bottom line is, we're good now. I'm not even gonna hazard a guess on the math off the top of my head because I'll screw it up. But the conversations that we have with Lori, Natalie, and I, we have our capital position is good for now.
Okay. Something, oh. That's a question for later.
Can I,
After Lori's
Chris, I saw a report that there was state grants for election preparation. Is any of that coming our way?
Yeah, about $4,000.
Oh, party.
Yeah, but by the time we're done, because this process with the mail-in vote, we might have to bring in extra personnel to help process those. That'll eat up some of that, and there's been some expenses in terms of we've had some different fiber optic upgrades that have been mandated with the Secretary of State's office, so we have a few expenses in that respect in terms of computer hardware or different hardware. But yeah, about 4,000 and change is coming to the town, which will help out.
Great.
Okay, so that was going to be my question, Mike, as to whether we needed more money for our election.
No, I think we're good. We did the primary, yeah, and we put some money into the if you came in and voted in person, you would have seen we had the plexiglass barriers up, and all of the PPE has been provided through emergency management and FEMA. So most of that's come into the town hall has been through other government agencies at no cost. Yeah, so we've been doing pretty good. For those that have come to the town hall, you can spend thousands of dollars to try to comply with these different mandates in terms of protecting the employees and protecting the residents and the patrons. I think we did it for well under $1,000, including $5 worth of shower curtains, which are lining our corridor here on this side of the building. So we tried to do the best we could with the minimum amount of money, and you all know that's pretty much business as usual for me, at least.
Well, as long as your employees feel safe. How are we on the roof?
Say I do.
Oh, thank you, Lori. How are we on the roof payments? Because I know we put in CIP and everything's going good there.
I missed the end of that, but I think this will answer it. Steve was in my office Tuesday morning, and the first thing I said after hello was, you got to get cracking on getting the rest of the reimbursement from the state for us. So the roof project on the school that's all done. The punch list is taken care of. Everything's done on that. It took a long time to get there. That was an interesting experience working with the vendor. And so now Steve is going to be working to make sure that the rest of the reimbursement comes in from the state. And knock wood, it'll be here in a timely fashion. If not, we have for the time being we have money in the CIP, which is there, that will cover us through till the reimbursement comes in.
I'd like to say thank you, Chris, for finally getting the Board of Selectmen budgets posted. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Jeanette, that was the first communication I had with that was with Ray, probably back in June. And it's one of those things, get them up. So you hand them off, you say, get these posted, and you figure it's done. And then, okay, they're not done, so we back and forth. Finally, after the last time you wrote, I said, well, the hell with this. I'm getting sick of reading these emails. So I went to Joanne Engel, who's our new administrative assistant in the office, and I said, here, let's get these up and let's make sure they're up. And then I said, when they're up, email Jeanette and tell her they're up, and then remind her too she can get a hard copy from down here as well. So I think she did that.
I printed my own. I'm good. As long as they got there, that's important. Thank you.
Yeah, it's something that it's something that as anyone experiences, you say, here, take care of this, and then I don't know, for whatever reason why it doesn't, but we got it fixed and it's done, so hopefully everybody has access to all that information now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, with that said, we'll move on to Board of Education's.
Can I just ask one more thing, Mr. Sush?
Yes.
Lori, I always defer to your expertise. Is there anything that we need to be watching in the documents that you submitted to us?
No,
Okay.
no,
All right.
I'm a little disappointed. I don't think our interest is going to come back as quickly as we had hoped. But all we can do is hope that it comes up, the percentage.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Steve, the superintendent, the floor is yours. If you want the floor.
Started my tenure August 14th. So it's been information by fire hose for the last 3 weeks. But it's been great. Been really impressed with the staff, from teachers to the bus drivers and the custodians. Everyone's working hard and has the right attitude about kids, doing the things for the right reasons. When we did the reopening of school, we have 100% of our staff have returned to work, so we do not have any FMLA claims at this point that are COVID related. So I think that just goes to show to the dedication to the community and the kids. So that's been really impressive. And some of my meetings, like with Chris and other leaders in the community, understanding that transparency around our financial statements is really what the Board of Finance is going to be looking for. And that, is generally my philosophy anyway. One of the things I shared with Chris on Tuesday is I let the numbers speak for themselves, right? Sometimes the numbers aren't good and sometimes they're in our favor. So, but there's no point of postponing bad news. So if I have bad news to share with you, I'll tell you right away. So right now though, I've been working at the central office level for 7 years. The September report is never earth shattering. We are just getting started with staff and payroll, and the invoices are coming in for school tuitions as well as the annual contracts and trying to pay those off. So as we kind of work through those, our current understanding of salaries is essentially where we are, drilling down a little deeper, making sure with some of the offsets with the new hires. We really had 3 new hires. I did anticipate a need for some additional salary support for some of the remote learners. You heard other teachers, other districts hiring additional teachers to do that work. The approach that we took was we have a vacancy in one of our grants, and that position was meant to earmark towards intervention. So we're using some of those salaries in a grant to provide some of the relief associated with the additional cost for providing support for the remote learners. The benefit packages, we're starting to finalize all those requests and identifying which staff have elected to take benefits that previously didn't have benefits and vice versa. So in our October report, we'll have a more detailed understanding of where that line item sits. Also, when you look at the professional services, as I explained, those are starting to come in on a regular basis. We did hire and made a partnership with Preston School District for a transportation director. So Annie Glode is the new transportation director. She's technically an employee of Preston. So that salary is actually a ProTech service. So we have a contract with Preston for $25,000 for those services. She's been in the district several times already, getting to know the drivers and the community. So that relationship will definitely be evolving. Her tenure in Canterbury is shorter than mine. So that goes to say that it's definitely a work in progress at this time. As we look at
You're not the new guy anymore.
that's right. See how fast? That was great. As we look at
So this is Matthew. For the 3 new staff members to fill retirements or resignations, were you able to find people to come in maybe a little greener and at lower salaries, or did that pretty much a wash?
yes,
Okay.
there was definitely some breakage, some salary breakage there. I can't speak specifically to what the amount was at this point, but none of the new hires were at top step. So no matter what it was, we did have a
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, can I kick in on that? because what you said, Steve, doesn't answer the question. Did we get them for cheaper than the position that was there?
Yes, because the
Thank
people
you.
who we
Okay.
hired were at top step, meaning they were at the max salary. So the people that we hired were not. You know, I will say that, you know, in some of my experiences, you have to be cautious with that strategy, right? So for example, if you were able to hire a highly skilled special education teacher that can improve programming and supports and interventions, and you can prevent one out of district placement because you have a skilled special education staff, spending an extra 15,000, 20,000 in salary can easily save you 60, 80, 120,000.
Were these special ed positions?
One of them was, yes.
One was a special ed position.
But it was a new hire as directed, but I'm just kind of sharing philosophy wise.
Right.
It's something that you have to take into account what the position is.
I could certainly accept that for special ed.
Yeah.
But in the past, previous superintendents were hiring people at 7, 8, 9 step when you have a plethora of teachers out there that are trying to get into the business. And that's where the mentoring comes in, and you can craft a good teacher.
Oh, absolutely. There's I've worked with some exceptional first and second year teachers. There's no doubt about that.
And current staff excluded, and we had in the past situations where, you know, we would have, let's say a principal at one of the schools would have retired after many, many years of excellent service. And we would turn around and hire in a principal who was first time in that position at the same salary as the outgoing principal, because that's what the contract said. So that's kind of where I think that's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. The admin contracts vary from districts to districts, but typically you may see 3 steps at most, unlike a teacher's salary contract that can range from 10 to 14. Good. I'm glad you paused for some questions. I was hoping it would be a back and forth.
I do have a question under salaries,
Sure.
excuse me, under benefits.
Sure.
Your last line says that you anticipated 3 staff members applying for tuition reimbursement, but we received 6. This has been brought up in the past, Steve, is that other school systems do this, and I know this factually, is that you have to tell them by a cutoff date, yes, next year I am going to ask for reimbursement. If I don't, gravy for you, but I can't come in at the last minute. So I'm wondering if you could institute something like that as you build next year's budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have 7 teachers, that's it. Nobody else asked for it by a cutoff date, you're not eligible. You know, there's got to be some way of just saying no at some point.
I haven't looked at the contract language for certified and non-certified specific to tuition reimbursement yet. Typically, there's a cap on it, so boards aren't on the hook for more than a fixed amount of funds. And you're absolutely right, Janet. There are strategies you can use to help control that, whether it's first come, first serve, or you have to let us know. But you know, I've been involved in situations where after the cap, people just don't get the credit reimbursement. So I'll take a look at that, but
That'll
definitely
help build a budget, yeah.
we'll definitely help keep that in mind. Thank you. Anything else under those first 3 areas: salaries, benefits, or professional services? Yeah, I think the tuition obviously is the largest concern for a small community like this, even a large community for that matter, when you have all the sending high schools, and getting a handle on some of those students that require a clinical placement can definitely be a cost that can financially strap a community. So that'll be something we're looking at monitoring a little differently as we move forward, and also as we budget for next year. So by the October report, I'll have a better projection for the Board of Finance of kind of where we are in terms of anticipated, above, below. I think the other difficulty is the whole nature of the COVID pandemic, right? So, for example, just in our K-8 area, we typically have about 27 families that elect homeschooling. This year, we have 47 families. So the issue in projecting for next year's budget development is how many of those people are going to go back and forth. How many of those families are at the secondary level electing to do homeschooling. So those are some of the challenges we'll face, but we are aware of the areas that we need to focus on. We'll definitely be giving you some more communication in that area.
Steve, something that was, I'm sorry, Ray.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we also have a committee in place that are looking at the number of schools that we have available. Is that still?
Yeah, we've actually been doing some email correspondence. We've identified a day for an initial planning meeting so that the two committee members can update me. We'll establish an agenda where how broad of an audience of different community members we want to have a part of that, as well as what's the objective of that. If it's to add clarity to what each participating high school kind of offers, right? So you can take a small district that offers a smaller student population, but a more personalized approach, or you can look at a more comprehensive school that offers many more AP opportunities, foreign language opportunities, and things of that nature. So I think there's Canterbury is in a great spot to have such varying options for students. So I've already started speaking with the middle school principal about what high school recruitment looks like. Potentially moving to a high school fair model, so families will have an opportunity to see what those look like. So we're at the initial planning stages with board members for that high school committee, but that will be a priority in the fall.
Okay, but not just to teach the kids what the schools have to offer, as to whether we as a town should continue offering that many schools choice.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
we had over a number of years kind of questioned the disparity in tuition rates between Woodstock and all the other schools. And then on top of that, their little kick in the butt of they're paying their capital improvement for them too. So, you know, that was certainly a bone of contention for a lot of folks. Also realizing Woodstock's a really good school, but I think that was part of it. And the other one is that we still seem to still seem to have quite a few students switching around after the school year had started, and there was supposed to be a more stringent requirement in terms of, you know, once you've made this decision, then you're stuck after October 1st or whatever that date is. And I know we had bent that rule to the point that it was being abused.
Okay.
And the only other thing that I can recall over time that's been an issue is a significant number of children that we are paying for high school education that do not live in the town of Canterbury. That's, you know, something I think our bus coordinator worked on quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know, I think Dottie works on that quite a bit.
Sure does.
It has not been an insignificant amount. You know, I recall numbers of 14 to 20 at one time that were found that we were paying tuition for them, and they had lived in town. They're getting dropped off at some address so they could be picked up. So anyway, those are kind of the areas that we had previously showed some concern in.
I appreciate those insights, because that's because those are real dollars, hundreds of dollars. Yes, I have been that was one of my initial requests in conversations with Dottie about some of the residency checks. Canterbury does have a good system, and Dottie also shared with me it wasn't always that case. So the efforts of the district, I think, are kind of paying off now. Janet, did you have another question?
Probably, but I'll wait.
Okay. So, you know, supplies, we've asked the two middle school principals to be selective on the initial order, trying to limit some of the requests to 50% for some multiple reasons. One, not quite sure where the budget is going to go, so trying to have some control of some items that are not fixed, but as well as, are we going to be full remote, hybrid? So really taking a slow approach to some of the supplies and equipment that we need for the district. For dues and fees, those are kind of rolling in. Some of the associations that were not properly kind of budgeted for, I am having conversations with those organizations to see if we can get a break on for this year for some of the ones I think they're of value, particularly for some of the necessary political leverage we're going to need with the state and being updated with the ever-changing emails kind of related to the governor's guidance on how we reopen schools. So we're approximately, as you can see in the total, we've expended almost $1 million, which is just under 10% of the budget. So in your October report, you'll have an additional column on the financial page that will have anticipated projections. So not only will it include expenditures, but also include revenue, the anticipated revenue. I anticipate working with the board chair and the board on changing up the budget presentation for the coming years to provide a little more detail, and not only that, but I think categorize it in different buckets so that it's more understandable to a layperson who might not be very savvy with line items and things of that nature. So more to come on that.
Yeah, the reality in your budget, they are less significant, so to speak, than they would be in the town budget. So line items would be.
Yeah, yeah. So,
But I caution moving away from the line item.
oh no, the
still
line
like that
items are
reference.
there, but you need a narrative associated with it that explains, for example, how much are we spending on athletics and extracurricular activities? How much are we spending on supplies and equipment for students versus students, transportation, operation and maintenance?
Oh, yeah, break out your categories, yeah.
Yeah, but the way I looked at the current line items, you really had to combine some of the items because they're spread out too far. But you still share that information so that the Board of Finance has that detailed information and they're very savvy with the line item. But I think when we're communicating to families and other community members, it's helpful for them to kind of understand the expenses associated with the school district and how we're spending the money.
Just a couple of things that came to mind. There's been a lot of opportunity, I think, for some combination of services in terms of, kind of the hotel services, the cleaning supplies, the cutting of lawns, the, let's say PPE, those sorts of things that the town buys and the school buys separately. And, I personally would like to see more coordination, where we can, maybe it's not going to be $1 billion savings, but any savings helps. If we could increase our orders to include both town and school and maybe get a better price, that sort of thing. But, if you could keep your eye open for those opportunities, we'd certainly appreciate that.
Thanks for the insights.
Steve, I have a question. Usually as the school year progresses, there may be a need to initiate a freeze in spending. You're new to us coming in. Do you have numbers in mind that when you hit that threshold, that it's time to kick in some sort of, okay, slow the roll?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's definitely a holistic approach, right? So, and when I say that, so if we're looking at tuition as being overexpended, but and say it's $100,000 or $200,000 being overexpended, but I see some breakage in some of the other line items that will help mitigate that. That's important, and also the time of the year, right? So we know that when it's December and we anticipate potentially another student being placed out of district per se, there's only a half a year left for that tuition cost. So it's not as detrimental as it is at the beginning of the year. That threshold really would probably be a better question I can answer at a future meeting.
But you're mindful of it. You're mindful of that.
Absolutely.
We've had somebody that's just felt this was a bucket that they could just dip into and do what they wanted with. But
Jeanette,
you're seeing the whole
Jeanette,
deal.
Jeanette, it seems like that Steve's approaching it right with the supplies and not buying everything all now.
Yeah,
Because
that's what I'm saying.
You leave some room to save, to put a freeze on later if you don't spend it all right at this moment.
I guess I'm just being proactive so that
Absolutely.
I don't get annoyed in the backside.
Absolutely.
I think it's important for us to convey that this particular topic is exactly where everything went awry that we just reported, in that we knew we had a deficit, the school knew they had a deficit, We had offered to bring all the departments together and work through the deficit to mitigate it, and they shut us off.
Mhm.
So that's, everything that we've done is pretty much done away with any opportunity that could happen again. So what you're saying sounds perfect to me.
Yes, it sounds great.
We didn't want to say you need to stop spending and you need to stop
No.
spending. We wanted to hear, we're $200,000 deficit, but we have these factors that are going to counteract that. That we never got in the previous situation, and we're certainly not going to hold you to that. You didn't do that.
Now, I guess, Steve, I'm asking my questions this way. It's just because I need to rebuild the confidence
Yeah, that's fair.
that I have in the procedures of the financial aspect of the school. And you're giving me the answers that are giving me the confidence that we're headed the right way.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think,
and we were very, just to give you, I don't want to water under the bridge for a certain point, but we were very, very proactive in trying to mitigate that situation of the deficit, and it was very frustrating for us, and that's really kind of where a little bit of animosity got involved in that. We have answers for you that can help, but if you don't listen to us or you don't come to us,
mhm.
talk to us, we can't help you. So that's really the gist of it, I think.
There was talk at the last ending of our budget meetings with the other gentleman that filled in for you, Steve, that there was I think $85,000 coming in COVID money. Have you received that?
So there are two primary grants related to support from the federal government. One of them is 88,000, about 88,000. I can't remember if it's 84 or 88,000 right now. I think it's 88,000. It's from the ESSER grant, right? That's what we're calling it, the CARES funding from the initial wave of kind of relief. So there's some flexibility in that grant in terms of how we expend it for example, intervention or computers or some of the PPE equipment. Most recently, there's been a significant amount of money, $160 million that the state has issued for the state of Connecticut. They've earmarked that money into different buckets, some of it for academic support, some of it for PPE, and some of it for transportation. All the money associated for academic support, which is about $50 to $60 million, was allocated to any district who had a free and reduced rate of 40% or more. So we do not qualify for that. So, but we have been earmarked for about $144,000 in the Corona Fund Relief is the name of the grant, the Coronavirus Fund Relief. However, there's a lot of controversy right now around that grant in terms of how it was distributed to districts. It was essentially based off of a survey that superintendents filled out a few months ago that they had no idea was going to be associated with funding. So you had districts with same student populations, same demographics. One superintendent took it serious, another superintendent over-exaggerated. The over-exaggerated superintendent got like $800,000, and the other superintendent got $100,000. So we got 144. The struggle with this grant is because we can't apply it to academics, it's saying we can only apply it into this line item, which we haven't got any specific information on, called PPE/health/security/ I think it was safety or something like that. So we're trying to get guidance on that. And the other struggle we're hearing is that the state is going to issue it as a reimbursement. So my concern is, as superintendent, if my interpretation is I need additional Chromebooks so students can work remotely because it's a safety issue if all the kids come into class, what if the state turns around and says that's not an eligible expense? Now the district's on the hook for $40,000 in Chromebooks. That's a real danger, right? So right now we've been applying it to, desk shields, PPEs, things of that nature. Some of the things we were spending out of the ESSER grant, we're shifting to this grant because the ESSER grant provides us a little more flexibility. So it's still a waiting game. We talk frequently with Kathy Dempsey and hearing some feedback from CAPS. So I anticipate that within 2 or 3 weeks, we'll get some additional guidance on how to manage that. Technically, the district has not received any funding yet, or as the state established, any mechanism to get reimbursed. So that numbers are there. We'll see how that pans out over the next couple of weeks.
Well, thanks for looking for the answers before you jumped in it with 2 feet.
Mm.
When you do that, there was some talk at our budget meetings that the library was putting up in hotspots. I guess people were coming to the parking lot so that they could do their schoolwork because they didn't have internet connections at home. Is that something that can be done around the town at different locations? Or I really don't understand how it works. I mean, we have techie guys on our board that would understand it more, but I don't know if that's a component you can incorporate into that.
So not speaking to that request specifically, I can tell you one of the things that the state has been working on, and we just received some recent communication. So as part of that survey that was sent out a while ago, Canterbury is receiving 50, they're called Khajiit hotspots. So these are for individual families. So if there is a school family in need of a hotspot, they can contact my office. We haven't sent out communication to families yet, only because we haven't received the devices or see if there was any financial link to that, like a monthly fee, or if it was free for a period of time. But we have started receiving communication. We're also anticipating receiving some vouchers for cable internet service for some of the families. The district will also be receiving 200 Chromebooks from the state to support the remote learning. Unfortunately, though, the Chromebooks do not come with cases, warranty, extended warranty, or the software necessary to access the devices remotely. Though that comes up to about $100 a device, so it'd be about $20,000. So I'm looking to use one of the grants to leverage those 200 devices to ensure that we have that proper structures in place so that these 200 devices will last the 4 years that they should last.
Just to make sure we're on the same page, any grants that are in addition to what were included in the budgets are not approved for appropriations. Meaning that if we were to get a grant in for, say, $145,000 from the state, it has to come to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance has to approve accept the grant, put it in the right line items, and then identify the proper means for approving any additional appropriation of those funds. And in the past, it's been kind of we didn't even know they came in, but the bottom line is all those grants come in the name of the town of Canterbury. So they have to be processed through the town of Canterbury.
Okay.
And I don't perceive that to be any kind of a problem, but it just keeps us to understand our understanding of where this funding is going, and we have our apertures are wide open. We look at every aspect of the town function, so we would know if these grants coming in are multi-purpose grants, the money may have to be distributed between different departments.
So I think it'd be helpful for you and I, Ray, to sit down to look at the process for that and communication and timeline. That'll be important to make sure I adhere to, other town bylaws. Chris told me there's no town charter, so I'll look forward to working with that.
Yeah, even from the standpoint of a grant, for the town to accept a grant, we have to go to town meeting if it's over 20,000. So the reality is that the title of the town applies to every entity of the town. So if we get a grant in, that money has to be brought to the Board of Finance. It has to go to town meeting and be accepted. Never seen a grant not accepted, but folks want to know what that additional funding is being spent on.
It also gives you a way, once you put it in the budget, then it gives you a way of drawing out of the budget.
The other thing is, does it affect ECS funding? Is it an MBR mandate? There are a lot of things that go along with this that acceptance of a grant may not necessarily always be as free as it may appear.
Yeah, some of those early security grants, required a 20% contribution from,
Mhm.
the local side, whether it was
Yeah,
a town
that's-
school.
That would certainly be an example of one that's, that we had gotten milked into before. That, oh, we didn't know that we had to do that. So it's certainly nice to know before it happens. Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page there.
Sounds good. Appreciate the insight.
I have a question. Over the summer, I had gotten notification from one of our reps that the steep grants were opened up again. And I forwarded it to our Board of Finance and to our chairman and also to Chris Lipke that maybe it's something you guys could tap into. And the thought was maybe the ventilation. I don't know if you ever caught wind of any of that. I mean, how's the ventilation in our schools? Because that's a big issue with COVID in the schools.
Yeah. Operation and maintenance supervisor went around checking many of the exhaust fans, identified, say 13 motors that were not working either at all or weren't pulling enough air. So all those have been repaired. We have a contract with EastCon that comes in to change the filters for all the HVACs. So they've been in district for both schools. So our fans are operating as they should be. I don't believe BMS has intake. So teachers are required like open windows and for that nature. So trying to do the ventilation systems in the middle of the school year is always a challenge. But that'll definitely be interesting to look at that steep grant.
I don't know if it had a time frame on it, but it was passed on this summer, which predates you, granted, but
Mhm.
it might be something that you could tap into so that we have proper ventilation in the buildings.
Sure, we'll take a look at that.
Now, the application period for the steep grants expired back in August, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that there was a very,
We did file one working with Parks and Rec. There's a steep grant that the town applied for, working with our rec commission to do some work down at Manship Park. They're very limited this year. It's about 128,000 was the maximum that you could get. And who knows how the state's going to actually hand the money out. But yeah, anything like that, you never know.
I just wish the school had an option and knew about it, but again, it predates you, Steve, so.
I actually had brought that to the attention of the principals, and I think the facilities director was at some of those meetings. My suggestion of the air recirculation came from, probably a 3-year-old plan that I had heard from the facilities director, which what that means is that between the time I heard that and today, very well may have been addressed in some way, shape, or form. But that was just something that had kind of come to the front when I'd heard those were available. So
All right, thanks.
hopefully they'll be around next year, and it'll be. From what I understood, it was. I mean, $1 is good, but it was an unusually small, steep total. Although small is better than 0, which is what it was previously.
Mm-hmm.
So, something we certainly need to keep our eye on. And with the COVID situation, none of these mandates are going to go away completely. There are always going to be some overall things like ventilation, that sort of thing that they're going to want us to get our arms wrapped around. So, those things are certainly would be viewed positively by the state if we were to come up with a plan on get those remedied.
Great. That's my report for the Board of Finance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
And I'll get with you. Have a cup of coffee and see how things are going.
Sounds great.
I'll bring the dog.
Good luck.
I got 2 big dogs. We're good.
Good luck to your school year.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, you too. Well, we are down to old business, which there is none. Public comment, which there are no public here beside us. And that leaves us to adjournment.
Ray, can I clarify? So we're just going to meet through Zoom until further notice. This
Yes, this is the number. This is the, all the particulars for this meeting will remain the particulars as long as we do this. And I got to be honest with you, even after COVID, it may not be a bad idea, as long as it's not really painful and the bandwidth is okay at town hall. I certainly wouldn't mind keeping this format going so folks that can't make it to the meeting can dial in and participate.
My concern in the community room is the internet is weak over there.
Yep, I understand. That was my, that was my main concern with even doing this meeting tonight there, because I didn't know that we had sufficient bandwidth to make the meeting usable. But Chris does his meetings, the selectmen meetings from there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Very well.
we tie we're hardwired in with our computer there, so we're not relying on Wi-Fi, and it works just fine.
That's the main thing. I was going Wi-Fi into the guest library.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The other thing though, with the tri-board meeting, that's going to have to be in person, because to try to get the three boards coordinated on Zoom, we'd have better luck hurting Ray's dogs. So we'll try to get that penciled in for the last week of September, first week of October, and
Okay.
we can all get together. But yeah, we'll
To
leave it
that
at
point, Chris, I will not do an in-person meeting. So have at it.
You can call in.
Yep. And I think what Chris, I think what we're trying to say there is that, there's always going to be a situation where a board member can't make it to a meeting for whatever reason, COVID or not. And if we have the ability to bring them in using this service, I think we would be doing a disservice, and your mind just pops up says your connection's unstable. But anyway,
Did you say Chris is unstable or the connection?
well, it was on that other screen. But as long as we have the capability and it's, it doesn't detract from the conduct of the meeting, then we ought to keep trying to do it.
I'd be in favor of trying to do that. And if we needed to make improvements at town hall to support that, I would look for that in the future as well.
Yeah, 'cause I think
You're saying share Zoom, Mike?
No. I'm just saying in the future, if and when we do return to town hall in a normal course of business, to also stream for accessibility
Oh.
and to look at improvements that may be necessary at town hall to support that.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for years, and every time we talk about that, it seems as though the money gets beaten out of us one way or the other. It goes into something else. But yeah, I mean, Ray and I have had those conversations for the better portion of at least 4 years about working on that connectivity down here. Yeah, it's just a matter of getting the money. And
It's COVID. Go for grant.
There could be a grant
COVID,
related. Yeah. There could be a COVID related grant that could cover some of that, right? Yeah.
Possibly, but with that, with the COVID grants, when you think about the reimbursement through FEMA and the like, you have every municipality in the United States fighting over the same pot of money. We could be waiting a long time before that shows up, if it ever does show up. But yeah.
I still say we fight.
A good fallback is the wire connection that's already there. I mean,
yeah, and the wire connection exists there. Yeah.
Is that a wire? There's a plug in the room?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've never tried that, so I don't.
Yep,
Yeah.
neither have I in there.
Maybe that was.
There's no wireless connection of any kind is really good in Canterbury. So, all right. With that said, the next
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have motion and a second. Signify your approval by signing off.
See you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Be
Good night.
safe.
Thanks, Ray. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ray.